Welcome to the mic. This is Craig Valentine. I got to be honest, I've been speaking in a number of different places. Now, that might sound strange. Like, am I speaking in person? No, I'm on travel for different reasons, and I'm speaking to different groups from hotel rooms. So I don't have this background when I speak to the different groups. I don't have my green screen. I don't have everything in place. So here's the thing I realized about speaking. Whenever you have something different or something new, use it. Find a way to use it, even if it's just to slide into your message. So for example, Will, one of the things I said to the group, and you're probably familiar with the story, so I won't tell the story, but here's how I slid into it. I spoke to a group last week called FINRA, Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. I speak to them a lot. I said, look, this is not my normal background. I'm sorry you have to look at this hotel room background, but we don't always have the ideal situation. For example, when I was in prison visiting, an inmate, boom, and I go right into the story, right? So it's just a different way to slide into that same story based on the current circumstances of what's going on. So you got to look at what's going on in the world. What else is going on in the world? Now, I know it's a loaded question, but right now, even very specific to Will and where he's located, what's going on in the world? The Olympics. Right? The Olympics. So I could talk about the Olympics and I could go right into my story about Ace and the equestrian. You know that story? Or I can go into something that I've been talking about for years, which is I love the Olympics. I love the swimming. I love the track and field. But here's what I realized about life. Most people live their lives on get set. Right? Whether it's wanting to write a book, wanting to give a speech, wanting to do something, they take their marks, they get ready, they get set, and they never go. And unfortunately, most people die on get set. They take their ideas, their innovations, their inventions, everything to the grave with them because they lived and they died on get set. So you see how I'm going to use whatever's going on in the world today to slide into a message that I already tell. Now, just out of curiosity, why do you think when it comes to getting out there and putting yourself out there as a speaker and going and giving maybe even free speeches or writing a book, why do you think, especially when it comes to speaking, that people live their lives on get set? Why do you think they don't go out there and put themselves out there as a speaker? Raise your hand if you have an idea. All right, let me go with Peter. Peter, why do you think? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Maybe I can ask to unmute you. Peter, go ahead and unmute yourself. Why do you think?
Yeah, sure. Probably I would say, Craig, because people are scared, fear.
Yeah, and what are they afraid of, do you think?
I think some people might be afraid of success, of what that actually might mean. And people, I mean, I also know that people are kind of afraid of taking a chance. And what if they fail? Fear of failure.
So it could be the fear of failure, could be the fear of success. I'm glad you said success too, because a lot of people are afraid of any kind of change. And success is a change as well. In fact, if you're watching this right now, do me a favor and cross your arms.
Sure.
All right, now cross them the other way. See, you can't look at Will. You can't even do it, can you? Hey, Will, let me ask you, have your arms been with you all day? And most people can, because it's a change and it's uncomfortable. But here's what I guarantee you. If you changed it the other way, if you crossed it the other way for like 30 days, you'd be very used to it. It'd become the norm. It's like when I broke my thumb, my left thumb, I'm a lefty. When I broke my thumb in high school, I started doing everything right-handed. And to this day, I brush my teeth right-handed, right? It's just a change. But here's the other reason, Peter, why I think, Will, did you have an idea?
Yeah, I had another thought. There's actually three parts to that process. There's ready, get set, and go. And I think one of the reasons why they stay on get set is because they're not really ready.
Ooh, so not really ready in the first place.
Prepared or simulated or so they know they're not really ready. And that pulls them back.
So maybe they just take their marks and then they try to go and they can't do it because they're not ready. They're skipping a step.
Or it's like fire, aim, get ready. They
exactly. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we're gonna actually go into something about that in a minute. But I'm gonna tell you one of the other reasons why I think that people don't put themselves out there as a speaker. It's because they don't have enough fun speaking. It's too stressful. Right? Nod your head if you agree with me. Sometimes it's too stressful, even in the preparation, all the anxiety leading up to the event, and then they do the event and they're stressed and they're not having enough fun. And guess who else is not having enough fun? the audience. And the reason is because we're giving speeches instead of creating an experience, right? So what we want to do is, and that's what this whole program is about today, learning how to go beyond giving a speech to create an experience for our audience. And you're going to pick up 6 different keys on how to do that. Obviously, there are more keys than that, but we're going to pick up at least 6 different keys today. And let's make it an experience. Let's have some interaction here. So here's key number 1. Now, let me ask you before I even go into that. What do you think is the most important skill you can have in speaking that will make it feel like an experience for your audience? Raise your hand if you have an idea. Diane, what do you think?
The ability to connect with your audience.
Exactly. And what's one of the best ways to connect with your audience? What's one of the best skills you can use to connect with your audience?
Humor.
Okay, humor. Good. Let me go with Terry. Terry, what do you think?
Storytelling.
That's it. That's it. It's storytelling. Now, here's the thing. I talk about storytelling all the time, so I'm not going to talk about that today. But just know that the best way to make an experience for your audience is to tell stories and to make them feel like they were a part of it, like they witnessed it as it was happening. They went through the ups and downs. They went through the roller coaster. Look at some of the previous mics and you'll see what I'm talking about with that. So we're not going to talk about storytelling because we do that all the time, but 6 other things that you can do to make it feel like an experience. Here's number 1. You got to keep it moving. You got to keep your audience moving. They shouldn't just be sitting there. Keep them moving. Let me give you an example. Raise your hand if you feel like sometimes, well, no, let me ask you this instead. Raise your hand if you know any negative people. Albert, don't point. Don't point. Pointing at other people on the screen. Look, raise your hand if you are a negative person.
Sometimes.
Okay. Mute yourself. Now look around. Look around. Huh? We all know one, but no one is one, right? Yeah, I don't even think that's mathematically possible. Here's what I should ask you. I won't do this, but I should ask you this. Raise your hand if the negative person you know is somewhere on this call. Hey, look, if they're in the square next to you, just blink twice. Just do that. I'll see you and I'll know who. So stop right there for a second. What have we just done? We've raised our hand. We either kept that hand up or we raised our other hand. We looked around. We laughed a little bit. We maybe even blinked, right? We did a number of different things in about 30 seconds. What you want to do as a speaker is find a way to keep your audience moving. It's okay to have them turn to a neighbor and say something to them. It's okay to have them raise their hand. Now, I'll be honest. When I was first starting off in the NSA, National Speakers Association, the prevalent advice was, as a speaker, make sure you never ask your audience to raise their hand because it's going to make them feel like they're back in elementary school. You know what I said, Sridhar? So I'm going to make them feel young again? Right? There's a problem with that? I have no problem with that. And here's the other thing. To me, the benefit outweighs the cost, if there is any cost, because I'm keeping them moving. And when I keep them moving, then all of a sudden, guess what we have? We have energy that's being brought up, right? But here's the other thing. When I have them raise their hand, it's a public declaration. Your audience not only wants to be heard, they also want to be seen. And if you can get them to make a public declaration, then that's even better, especially when it comes to committing to something. So you want to keep them moving. And that's one thing you certainly want to do. Let's look at the second thing that you want to have them do.